Almost every Sonic fan's favourite game is one of the following: Sonic 3 and Knuckles, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Unleashed, Sonic Generations, Sonic Mania, or Sonic Frontiers. And each one of these games excels in areas where the others might stumble. Unleashed had poor optimization, Generations didn't execute its themes fully, Mania reused more stages than not, and I wonder what would happen if we take the strengths of Sonic's best game and compile them all into one dream Sonic game. Now, of course, this is going to be my personal dream Sonic game, the aspects I enjoy from each of the games as one. If you have any ideas of your own on what your favourite Sonic game would be, whether it's 2D, 3D, a beat 'em up, maybe another Sonic Shuffle. I don't know why you would want that. The first thing to settle on is the gameplay, and honestly, I think Frontiers is pretty much there. It's a perfect mix of adventure and the boost eras, but thrown in combat as well. However, this is the first major problem that I would have to fix. To me, the combat is the weakest of all the gameplay aspects in Sonic Frontiers, and to improve it, the combat should be as expansive as the Werehogs. There should be plenty of moves to learn and master, lots of different skills to enhance. The parry could be upgraded to increase the window of the time you have to pull off a parry, and then be upgraded again to unlock and extend the perfect parry. Also, screw the perfect parry in Frontiers. But instead of the perfect parry replacing the regular parry, it will be stacked on top of it, where a parry can be performed as normal, but if you activate it at the exact time, then you perform a perfect parry instead. The combat also feels very overpowered in Sonic Frontiers, because you can just spam the best attacks like Cross Slash, the Stomp Attack, and have no cooldown at all between them. And there's very few other attacks that make experimentation fun. In Master Coco's Trial in the Final Horizon update, it's pretty much required to spam the Stomp Attack in order to win within the time limit. The only other thing you can do is use Psyloop, which is an awesome move, but it can only be used on the ground. If you want to use the quick Psyloop in a combo, you need to wait for the meter to recharge, which is fine, but I'd rather have had the quick Psyloop as a regular move, and then the special attacks have the recharging meter, like the Cross Slash, and the Sonic Boom, and the Wild Rush. Would it have been overpowered? Yeah, absolutely. But no more overpowered than spamming Cross Slash to instantly take care of any enemy. I think that's everything for the combat. There's only those two things I'd make. One would be just refining the combat to make it a little bit more balanced, and two would be making the combat expansive, just as expansive as the Werehog was. And I think these would, together, combine to make the combat just a little bit less repetitive. So what about the exploration gameplay, or the cyberspace? I actually think those are really great and don't really need much tweaking. The only thing I would change is cyberspace gameplay, but less to do with the gameplay itself and more so the level design. I could only suggest having more Sonic-y environments for the open zones, places like Station Square, a floating ancient fortress, an underground cavern, filled with glowing gems and unusual creatures. There really needs to be something more than just grasslands, desert, volcano, and the art style needs to match. I think Generations was perfect for bringing realism to the traditional Sonic environments, but without losing the fantastic appeal and charm. It would be great to see that approach again. The open zones would basically just be large hub worlds with plenty to do in them, and the result would be something like the Sonic Unleashed hub world and entrance stages, but blended together. A large playground to run in, missions assigned by the locals, hotspots of enemies centered around dangerous areas. It would all go a long way to immerse you in a Sonic world. The biggest problem I have with running around in Frontiers is the mini-bosses. They always get in the way, trigger a cutscene, force a different camera angle until I run away far enough. It can get really frustrating. I'd just remove the mini-bosses once you've defeated them, and then have some kind of base in each open zone where you can choose to enable or disable them going forward. As for the cyberspace stages, or the action stages as I'll refer to them, I really want them to be as fast as Unleashed in Generations. I do love the stages in Frontiers, especially how great Sonic feels to control in them, but I still much prefer the high-speed action with quick reflex moments in the previous Boost stages. I also think the levels need to be tweaked and go back to having 2 or 3 longer stages rather than 7 or 8 short ones. The level length really does make a difference, as the shorter ones in Forces and Frontiers feel like they end right as they get going, and none of them are all too memorable, aside maybe 10 at most between both games. The amount of stages with the same themes just make them all blend together as well. Right now, I can't pick apart more than 5 cyberspace stages off the top of my head because they all have the exact same visual style to them. Because the stages are so short, you only get to do maybe 1 or 2 interesting moves in each stage before they end, whereas Generation stages have so much going on that doing a complete run, pulling off every shortcut, is an incredible roller coaster, just oozing with excitement. And the longest stages in Frontiers are easily the highlight from that game, and I really wish each stage just had maybe a minute or 2 longer. Just add similar stages together, put them into one, rather than splitting them up with separate objectives, because 1, it makes replaying them less fun. I'd rather have 1 longer difficult stage, and 2, it just feels like unnecessary padding. Like, hey, we've got 6 stages, but actually, no, we've got 15 because we cut them all up, and now you have to load into each one and do all the objectives for each one. And Frontiers is not a game that needed padding. I'd also like each zone to be unique. We all know that Kronos Island was meant to have Rhea and Uranos as a part of it too. I really hope I pronounced those correctly. And to me, it really affected the end of the game for me. I was excited to see what environments we'd see. We had a desert full of canyons, an ashy volcano frozen at the top with a decommissioned Death Egg robot stranded on another island, and at the end it's just grassy plains. And then more grassy plains again. And because of this, it made the story feel a bit less climactic. Speaking of the story, how would I handle it? I can't really create a whole script, but I'll at least throw out my main ideas. I'll take a few pointers from the games with the most celebrated stories: Adventure, Adventure 2, Unleashed, and Frontiers, which all have one thing in common: a heavy focus on the Chaos Emeralds. Because the story is focused on the Emeralds, it makes those super transformations for the final fight even more thrilling, and make it feel like a complete story, rather than just the Chaos Emeralds just being a device to beat the game like the advanced games, Heroes, or Generations. It also helps that in the better stories, the Chaos Emeralds have another function than just the supersonic transformation. They empower Chaos further in Adventure 1, introduce Chaos Control and Chaos Spear in Adventure 2, as well as being the primary power source for the Eclipse Cannon. Frontiers explains the story of the Emeralds, encompassing in a super boss fight at the end of every island, but by far the best is Sonic Unleashed. At the beginning of the story, they get reduced to powerless pebbles, and as we restore the Emeralds, so does the planet. Tying them into our progress really makes them feel like they're part of the journey. Having them completely powerless at the start of the game makes the super transformation at the end the most hype in the series by far. And on top of that, the temples used to restore their power come together and form the Gaia Colossus, a massive transformer-looking thing to fight side by side with us. I'm sorry, I could gush about the Emerald's implementation in Unleashed all day. It's easily the peak of Sonic storytelling in games, and it makes a pretty simple story even more effective thanks to the Emeralds. Another thing to consider is the cutscenes. They usually deliver some of the most memorable moments in the series and essential moments in the various stories. Obviously, I would be hiring Marza for some of the cutscenes at the beginning and end of the game, but for the in-engine cutscenes, I'd remove a lot of the static pose, flailing arm cutscenes that there's a lot of in Frontiers. Splash Dash did do a video on these cutscenes explaining why they're just not good. I do recommend that video, and I agree with a lot of the points that he made. But in contrast to Sonic Frontiers, Unleashed had so many dynamic, interesting cutscenes in-engine that have characters conversing without feeling completely static. The one with the Werehog and Chip talking after realizing his true purpose comes to mind. I'd have the cutscenes just be more expressive overall, and give the high-tension moments the CG treatment. Also, at the time I wrote the script, Sonic Dream Team wasn't out yet. I've been working on this video for a while, I apologise. But the cutscenes in that game look really good. I've not played the game, I don't have an Apple device, I might just have to borrow my partner's. But the cutscenes in that game look so expressive, and I really want I can't speak. I really want Hardlight to make their own console Sonic game. They deserve to be more than just the Sonic Dash developers making a 3-lane runner that's free to download. They could make a really good side Sonic game in between the big releases. What makes the story even better is the character relations and interactions. Sonic himself doesn't necessarily need to have any significant development, but at the very least, there should be a new character influenced positively by him and the others. And I think in Forces, the Avatar easily has the best part of the story thanks to this approach, and the only good part of the story too. We also see Chip regain his memory and purpose, Shadow fully understand Maria's promise, Merlina's acceptance of mortality, and so many more examples throughout the series where Sonic doesn't necessarily need to grow, but the influence he has on others is there. Overall, the story would be focused on the Emeralds, with a new character positively influenced by Sonic's never-ending resilience. However, there's one more thing I'd like to add to the story that I think everyone misses. Bring back the godlike deity villains! They're so cool! Would it be a hot take to say I don't want a Crush 40 final boss theme? Is that the knock of a door? Is that the sound of an angry Sonic mob? Shit! I'd rather have a Sonic and the Black Knight approach. Have a heavy emphasis of Crush 40 throughout the game, but then give new talent the chance to have the big showstopper track. Bring back Nate Wants to Battle, or similar to how Jared Reddick performed Endless Possibility. I could totally see the lead singer of Fall Out Boy, Patrick Stump, performing a song for the game, whether it be a main theme or a final boss theme especially. As for the level themes, I can't say I'm such a fan of the new EDM style. I do like it, but I still prefer the rock-heavy style from the earlier games, supplemented by other genres for the other playable characters. And here's my even hotter take that's absolutely necessary for my dream Sonic game. Bring back Rumblebee! I absolutely love the soundtrack for Sonic and the Secret Rings, and the vocal themes in the Sonic Riders games are among my favourites. Everything Rumblebee touches becomes pure gold, and I would love to see him return for the vocals in a game one day. Unawakening Float and It Has Come to This are incredible tracks, and to be honest, I could easily list the whole soundtrack for Secret Rings as the best from that era. That's everything I'd include in my dream Sonic game. Of course your opinions may differ, so after you drop a like and subscribe, feel free to share your ideas in the comments below. Maybe a dream Sonic game would be a 2D platformer inspired by Sonic Rush, or something never tackled before like a Metroidvania, which would be really cool. Or maybe your dream Sonic game already exists in the form of Sonic Blast. And I'm not saying I judge you, but yeah, I judge you.